Hello, I'm Matteo, the Chief Mobile Opinionist here at Tech Travel Geeks, and this is the setup video for the UNIHERTZ TickTock-E smartphone. If you haven't already, check out our previous video where we took it out of the box, showed you the contents and the charger, and just gave you a quick hardware run through. So let's start off, before we actually switch the device on, in finding the SIM tray, which, if you're looking at the smartphone screen, is on the left-hand side at the top, just above those customizable smart buttons. And the SIM tray has a hole in it. Just use the SIM ejector tool that came with the UNIHERTZ TickTock-E. Just pop that in, and then the tray comes out. Now, this tray supports, in this case, a nano SIM, as well as an extra nano SIM or a micro SD card. I'm not going to put a micro SD card in at the moment, but I'll do a separate video on how to swap out SIM cards and or add a memory card in a later video. And what I'm going to do is just slide that SIM tray back into the device, and we're ready to go. So first things first, I'm going to long press the power button on the right hand side of the device, and we get that UNIHERTZ logo, powered by Android. This is what we saw in the unboxing video, and after a while we'll also have the UNIHERTZ logo come up on that rear screen on the device, which is quite funky. Here we are, UNIHERTZ logo coming up, and we have the UNIHERTZ logo coming up on the back of the device as well. So let's select language, and I'm going to go for English, but I'm going to go for English United Kingdom. We're going to go ahead from here. Now I'm going to connect to my Wi-Fi network. And the first impressions on the haptic feedback and how typing felt were quite comfortable. The ergonomics of the phone are really quite good. The back of the phone feels really, really nice. And interestingly, we've already had on the back of the device seen the clock show up. So as the device comes out of the box, it has 37% charge, which is pretty normal. Normal charge should be around about that as it comes out of the box. But with 18 watts charging, it shouldn't take too long to charge the smartphone in normal conditions. Now we'll just wait a few moments whilst the setup continues. Okay then, so the first thing that it's offering us is to copy apps and data. I'm going to set this up as a new smartphone, so I'm not going to copy anything from my Google account or elsewhere. So now we sign into our Google account, and there we go. I agree with all the terms of service from Google. We trust in Google. And it's going to take a few moments to update. So we're going to back up settings, location, essentially everything that Google asks for because we trust Google. This will improve my smartphone experience. Right, this is a screen which is quite unique to the European Union and the UK. It's a ballot screen where you get to choose your search engine as a default for the device. Now, obviously, as I said earlier, in Google we trust. We're going to select Google here. But if you prefer Bing or any other search engine, you can choose that. I'll now set up a screen lock for the device. Okay then, so it's now suggesting that we do set up Face Unlock. So there's the usual warnings about that. I'm going to go ahead with that. So how to set up Face Unlock? Let's start. Well, that was fast. Now let's set up our fingerprint. So fingerprint unlock uses your fingerprint, and in this case it's on the side of the device, built into the power button. This is really quite handy. It's my preferred way of having fingerprint scanners. I think that ergonomically it's much better than having it in a screen, and it's also easier to find when you're not looking at your smartphone. Whoop, I've accidentally switched my phone off. Now let's go ahead with that fingerprint scanner. That's the downside to the fingerprint scanner during the whole setup process, because you're touching it multiple times. You can accidentally be turning your device off, but using my thumb here, I'm going to be more gentle this time and make sure that that fingerprint scanner gets a good image of my smartphone fingerprint to make unlocking my phone easier. There we go. So face unlock and fingerprint scanner and PIN done. I think we're done for security. So next up, we'll go through, usually it's the Google Assistant at this point. I wonder if they'll ask me for that this time. And yes, it doesn't ask me for my voice fingerprint. Google already has that for multiple devices and multiple platforms. Great, I'm going to skip setting up Google Pay here, but I will be setting it up. Obviously the UNIHERTZ TickTock-E has NFC, which means that you can use this to pay for public transit. You can use this to pay for items in shops, and that's quite good to see. Now, first things first, we've just finished the setup portion of this experience. Is that screen with this particular wallpaper looks lovely. Nicely saturated colours, some pretty decent contrast where you can see it. For example, the text labels to the icons seem pretty decent. So I'm pretty impressed by the quality of that screen. Before we go any further, let's make sure all the pre-installed Google apps, as well as any other apps, are up to date. And to do that, I need to go into My Apps and Games. So there's 24 apps. These look to be all Google related apps. So we'll go ahead and update those and have a look at the rest of the smartphone. This seems to be a pretty clean Google experience like Android's experience. Let's have a look at that. So we've got our pull down. This looks to be standard Android 12 with very little in terms of extra flourishes of UX. So this is currently on Android 12 with the security update to the 5th of May 2022. Now, obviously this smartphone won't go on to wider sale until September 2022. So I'd expect there to be an update by the end of September to bring that security patch up to a later one. But for now, I'm sure it's fine. As you can see, the UNIHERTZ TickTock-E has gesture navigation enabled by default. So there's no initial option to choose between button navigation and gesture navigation, but I'm pretty much on board with gesture navigation at this point. So I'm happy with that. Interesting, the UNIHERTZ TickTock-E has an FM radio option. That will be particularly useful with that adapter that we saw in the unboxing. That's a USB Type-C to Courage port, or 3.5mm audio jack, for listening to radio when you're out and about, if you don't have access to data to stream content. Right then, so in terms of setup, we've checked there's no latest updates available. We'll keep this one short and sweet, but as far as the overall experience goes for setting up the smartphone, it's pretty fast and painless. So I'm going to go into the apps, see how we're doing for updates. 21 updates in process. We might need to cancel them all and then start again. Okay, it's not too slow. In the meantime, let's check what chipset is available on the device. To do so, I'll go to CPU-Z, install that app on the UNIHERTZ TickTock-E, and once that's done, we'll open up the app. And yes, so this is a MediaTek Helio P35 chipset. That's an octa-core chipset. It's a 12 nanometer process. And this particular device has 4 GB of RAM in the system. And the display is declared at 720 by 1600. That's not too bad. Right, I'll go back to here. We can check on our updates and kick them off again. So 20 updates to install. What I'm going to do is just pop this down at the moment. In terms of setup experience, I think this is pretty smooth. It's a pretty much close to Google experience. I won't go as far as saying it's a stock experience because, as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't exist anymore. So if you enjoyed this video, if you'd like to see more about how we customize the extra display on the UNIHERTZ TickTock-E, how we use those action buttons on the left-hand side of the device, please do subscribe to the Tech Travel Geeks here on YouTube. We cover consumer electronics, gadgets, smartphones, pretty much anything we think makes the travel experience better. If you have any further questions, leave them in the comment section below. We'll try and address those questions in future videos, or we'll do our best to get back to you in the comments themselves. For now, thanks for watching, and goodbye from me.